We have to get out of here. Dr. McNeil, could this be a result of your research?
Maybe. What I'm doing is injecting various formulas of growth hormone into the crab.
Honestly, that's a mystery we might never solve. Welcome back to Genx Horror. We talk about all things 70s and 80s horror and nostalgia. Remember those Friday nights when your parents are working late again and you'd bike down to Video Paradise with your crumpled $5 bill, heading straight past the new releases to that glorious back corner where the creature features lived? It was always that section with the sun-faded boxes and flickering overhead lights featuring airbrushed monsters that looked way too insane to resist. Yeah, we're going deep into those dusty VHS memories today. While everyone else was watching E.T. Phone Home, we were watching things that should have stayed in the sewers, oceans, and abandoned mines where they belonged. Today we're taking a chronological ride through the 10 most wonderfully bizarre creature features that'll make you question why mutant animals were absolutely obsessed with terrorizing small towns in the late 70s and 80s. There's also a bonus flick that truly captured the 80s vibe that we might have missed. And best of all, this one only has one 80s radio host. Alright guys, let's get into it.
Somewhere in the dark of infinite space, there is a form of life that man has reason to fear.
Alright, it's Friday night and your parents are out, and you've got a hungry man waiting for you at home. You're cruising the horror section and you spot a VHS box with glowing red eyes staring back at you. And that's an instant rental, am I right? 1979's The Dark delivers on that promise with an alien mutant hybrid stalking Los Angeles at night, literally disintegrating victims with laser beams shooting from its eyes while ripping them apart with its bare hands. And it would be negligent to not mention he has telekinesis. The guy's tearing an entire living room set apart with his mind. This movie started production as a straightforward zombie flick. But after director Tobe Hooper left the project, they literally rewrote it mid-shoot to be about an extraterrestrial creature instead, which explains why the plot feels like two completely different movies had a head-on collision. But the result is this beautifully confused mess that can't decide if it's a slasher or a sci-fi thriller, or hell, a police procedural. And honestly, that confusion is exactly what makes it peak VHS-era creature chaos. I'd be disingenuous to not mention how much I despise William Devane, long before he was the spineless, uncommitted president of the United States on Kiefer Sutherland's 24, probably ever since he was in Knots Landing, however. Apologies. Let's talk about the prophecy.
People are fishermen. Their lives are clean.
Seen children born deformed.
Gang, nothing says environmental message quite like a massive mutant bear with a face like melted rubber terrorizing Maine's wilderness. 1979's Prophecy throws Robert Foxworth and Talia Shire into an echo horror nightmare where mercury poisoning from a paper mill has created a grotesque papa bear that's basically Mother Nature's revenge with teeth and claws. Director John Frankenheimer, the guy who made The Manchurian Candidate, ended up helming this gloriously gooey creature feature that's an earnest environmental warning. And did that mutant bear just slap a kid in a sleeping bag 50 feet into a boulder? The creature suit is ridiculous and also nightmare-inducing, which is pretty much the sweet spot for the late 70s creature effects. And maybe this is unrelated, but if I had to describe William Devane, is it Devane or Devaney? I won't dignify it. If I had to describe him to a sketch artist, I would likely have to say he'd be like an old bathrobe holding an ashtray. Sketch that. Again, let me apologize for that. Let's get on with a Corman flick.
They began in the water. They're not human, but they hunt human women.
Roger Corman made a beautiful, trashier version of Creature from the Black Lagoon in Humanoids from the Deep from 1980. This is a movie about amphibious fishmen emerging from the Pacific Ocean to attack a small California town with some very specific and problematic intentions towards the female population. It's breeding, guys. It's breeding. These slimy, horny gill boys are the result of genetic experiments gone wrong, and they got that classic rubber suit aesthetic that somehow makes them laughable and legitimately creepy when they're lurking in the darkness. This was pure grindhouse exploitation dressed up in a creature feature kind of costume, and it became an absolute VHS rental staple because that cover art promised exactly the kind of B-movie mayhem that it was. The creature effects by The Thing and Total Recall's Rob Bottin are actually pretty solid considering the movie's exploitation roots, giving us memorable monster carnage that cemented this as an essential creature feature viewing. And is it Rob Bottin or Rob Bottin? I'm saying them both so I can't get corrected. I win.
It's my theory that these creatures are driven to mate with man now.
Hey, what is this? Your answer to world hunger? Don't laugh, it may be.
At 6 this morning, a full alert went into effect here at the power plant.
Remember when your biggest fear was stepping on a crab at the beach? Well, 1980s Island Claws, but not Island Boys, not White Claw, Island Claws takes that fear and supersizes it to absurd proportions with giant mutant crustaceans terrorizing a Florida island community. Look, Florida has enough going on. These crabs are the size of Volkswagens, skittering around, pinching people in half, and generally making a case for why seafood should only always be bite-sized. All thanks to some vague scientific growth hormone experiment that nobody bothered to properly explain because honestly, who needs to get mired in details when you've got to fight giant crabs? Look, they're here, let's deal with them. This is essentially Night of the Lepus, but traded killer bunnies for killer shellfish, with that same delightful, serious actors trying to sell absolute nonsense energy that defined regional horror filmmaking in the early 80s. The film's got that sun-bleached Florida exploitation vibe working overtime, making it feel like a food poisoning nightmare you'd have after eating bad crab cakes at a beachside dive bar served by a sweaty, hungover Willie Devane.
Galen Village. Tranquil. Quiet. A nice place to live.
Canadian horror always hits different, and The Incubus from 1982 is proof. It's a moody, supernatural mystery where John Cassavetes plays a doctor investigating a series of brutal attacks in a small Wisconsin town, filmed perfectly in a small Canadian town, likely due to the bacon and budget, or the bacon budget in general. The creature itself is this demonic, shadowy entity that's a possession story and a little monster movie, leaving victims with bizarre injuries that suggest something truly otherworldly is doing the damage. The film takes its sweet time revealing what that something actually is, building dread like a slow-burning nightmare. Based on a Ray Russell novel and directed by John Ho, who gave us The Legend of Hell House, this one trades schlock for genuine atmosphere, making it feel more like a dark mystery novel than your typical creature bash. The practical effects, when they finally arrive, are genuinely disturbing, and there's this underlying current of sexual menace that makes it way more uncomfortable than your average monster on the loose kind of flick. Definitely one that stuck with you long after you rewound that tape.
Incubus.
Hey everybody, I just wanted to add, take a moment if you can to subscribe. You don't have to, but if you hit a like, this will show up in your feed again. Share it with someone that might love the same things that apparently we love. That would be great. Again, this is my editing bay. That's my strawberry lemonade from Wendy's. These are all the videos that we've gone through so far. There's like 260 something, 66, 65, one of those. It's insane. I should make that list available, because if you're ever like, man, what are some great 70s or 80s bangers? These are those, man. These are those for sure. All right, thanks all.
It haunts our cities. It's here.
You know, before Peter Weller was hunting drug dealers in Detroit as RoboCop or playing with other dimensions in one of my faves, Buckaroo Banzai, he was breaking out in his first lead role hunting one absolutely jacked rat in his New York brownstone. And honestly, the rat might be more intriguing here. 83's of unknown origin is essentially Jaws in a house, an escalating battle of wills between an increasingly frantic businessman and a malevolent rodent that's destroying his home renovation dreams one chewed wire at a time. And what starts as a minor pest problem becomes a full-blown obsession, with Weller's character descending into absolute madness while the rat seems to be orchestrating psychological warfare from inside the walls. And this rat has game, folks. Director George Cosmatos, who later gave us Rambo First Blood Part 2 and Tombstone, treats this premise with deadly seriousness, creating killer suspense from the simple question, can you outthink a rat? The creature effects keep the rat just ambiguous enough. Sometimes it's obviously oversized. Sometimes it's shot in a way that makes you wonder if it is actually that big, keeping you off balance the entire runtime. John Waters and Stephen King cite this movie as one of their favorites.
It's dark, it's gloomy, it's filled with terror.
Don't even think about going down.
Empire Pictures was absolutely cooking in the late 80s, and Cellar Dweller from 1988 is what happens when you mix killer monster comic book lore and an artist colony into one delightfully brutal package. The setup is VHS perfection. Decades ago, a horror comic artist accidentally summoned a demon through his drawings, and now that same creature is back, literally stepping out of comic panels to murder residents of the art school that's taken over the old house. And if it sounds like John Cusack's One Crazy Summer, you're probably misremembering. Jeffrey Combs shows up in the opening flashback because this man was contractually obligated to appear in every Empire Pictures production in those days, and the monster itself is this wonderfully impractical puppet creation that's all teeth, claws, and rubbery menace. You can't really move his neck, though. If you blink, you'll miss it, but there is a Reanimator poster on the wall in one of the scenes. This is the kind of movie that would have sat perfectly on the shelf alongside Ghoulies and even Terror Vision, promising exactly the kind of creature feature comfort food that defined late 80s horror, with enough practical gore effects to justify that parental discretion advised sticker on the box. This movie also was featured in Fangoria issue number 71 with the tag, "Where's the guts?"
An innocent woman is terrorized. Her life becomes a nightmare when she won't stay out of the basement.
Is God and the devil and what's good and evil.
What the hell are you talking about?
Just when you thought cockroaches couldn't get any worse, 1988's The Nest crawls along to prove that, you know what, yeah, actually, they can get much worse. Specifically, when genetic experiments turn them into flesh-eating swarms that eventually start creating grotesque human roach hybrids. Set in a super quaint New England island town, it's another Roger Corman production that takes the Nature Strikes Back subgenre and adds body horror to the mix, giving us monsters that are a mix between insect and like a melted person. The creature effects by Ed French range from impressively disgusting puppet work to some truly gnarly makeup that'll make you itch for days. And it's all wrapped in that signature Corman, we got no money, but crazy creativity kind of aesthetic. This is regional horror at its finest for sure. This is like Them meets The Fly, and it delivers on every gross out premise that cover art made, complete with roaches literally bursting out of bodies and a climax that involves way more fire than any small town fire department could realistically handle.
Let's light this candle.
Everything is in some way nameable, describable, and scientifically explainable.
You know, H.P. Lovecraft adaptations in the 80s were always a gamble, and they were around every corner. But the Unnamable actually nails the vibe of cosmic dread as much as you can when your monster is a demon lady with goat legs, claws, and a bad attitude about being trapped in a New England mansion for 200 years. Man, New England sounds crazy. Anyway, a group of college students decide to investigate the local legend. And surprise, the legend is very real and very interested in ripping people apart with practical effects that are genuinely impressive for a low-budget production. Honestly, the only legend that I want to investigate is how this guy's sweater stays draped over his luscious shoulders throughout the entire movie. Was the sweater a credited role? I'll have to look at the credits at the end. In any event, the creature, when fully revealed, is this wonderfully impractical creation that's succubus and beast and what were we thinking kind of monster design that works because everyone involved commits completely. This became a VHS staple for Lovecraft fans who wanted something a bit more straightforward than Gordon's Reanimator, but still wanted that ancient evil in old New England kind of atmosphere. Plus, it spawned an equally bizarre sequel because one Unnamable wasn't enough. Lovecraft adaptations are difficult. His creations are often described as like the most horrible thing a human has ever witnessed. And that's it. So if you're making this into a screenplay, you got to use your imagination.
H.P. Lovecraft's The Unnamable.
Now, I saved this one for near the end here. It's one of the weirdest ones. It's the Strangeness from 1985. And it's what happens when an ultra-low-budget crew decides to make a creature feature using stop-motion animation for their monster. And the result is this beautifully bizarre clash of techniques that feels like a kid's claymation project invaded a legitimate horror movie. And man, who doesn't love stop-motion? Like, it honestly takes you right back. A group of spelunkers explores an abandoned California mine, and they encounter like a tentacled kind of thing. And it looks like it escaped from a Harryhausen film, lurching and undulating through the tunnels with that distinctive jerky charm of low budget stop motion. Not even expensive stop motion. Now, the creature itself is this wonderfully weird amalgamation of tentacles and mouths that make absolutely no biological sense. It's from the Earth's core, which explains, I guess it explains nothing. But watching it move through practical sets with that distinctive animation style, it's oddly hypnotic, man. I loved it. This is peak VHS obscurity, and it's the kind of movie you discover purely by accident. You're going to watch it in stunned confusion, then immediately call everyone you know, because nobody would believe a creature feature this weird actually existed on the rental shelves. It was incredibly fun. A little cringy today, and 100%, gang, that's a labia. You didn't see that coming.
Come on! Give me some action!
Alright, gang, I'm throwing in one bonus pick that's technically outside our 70s, 80s wheelhouse. But Feast from 2005 is what happens when Project Greenlight, and that's the company with Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, How You Like Them Apples. They gave a bunch of genre fans a budget and basically said, make the most insane creature feature you can. And they delivered a blood-soaked love letter to everything that we've been talking about. This is pure monsters attack a bar kind of mayhem where absolutely nobody is safe. And seriously, the movie kills off who you think is the hero in the first 15 minutes. And man, I put it off so long. That is my requisite spoiler for the video. It doesn't spoil much because it's the rest of the movie is after that. Either way, it features creatures that look like they crawled out of the worst VHS nightmares. They are all teeth, slime. They got horrifying reproductive habits. They make humanoids from the deep look downright classy. The creature designs are properly disgusting. Practical effects are excellent. The gore is absolutely relentless. And the whole thing moves with this manic energy of someone who grew up renting every single movie on this list. It's the spiritual successor to the creature feature that raised us, proving that sometimes the best way to honor those dusty VHS memories is to crank everything up to 11 and remember that creature horror works best when it's unapologetically gross and refuses to take itself too seriously.
Holy shit! She's alive.
Man, going over 10, really 11 glorious creature features gave me all the feels. Creature features defined what it meant to prowl those video store aisles looking for the weirdest monster mayhem you could find. And these movies might not have had the budget of Alien or the prestige of The Thing, but they had crazy heart, insane stories, and most importantly, they had creatures that were absolutely committed to terrorizing small towns, isolated locations, and anyone unfortunate enough to live in New England for some reason. You know as well as I do, I likely didn't hit your favorite rubber monster movie. Drop them in the comments so we could talk about them and collectively discover the beautiful creations that we are missing out on. Thanks for watching, everybody, and as always, stay cool.